English translation, 560th contact, Thursday, the 9th of May 2013, 16 hours.
Hello, Ptah, dear friend. I did not expect you today, but it is very pleasant that you are coming, so be welcome and greet you also. Florina told me you were coming just a few minutes ago. I think you could also have let the girl know what to say and do, but I think it is good that you came yourself. Florina told me that you were at a panel meeting when she sent you my request.
That is correct, and it was just at the right moment when I received her message, because it meant that we could take a decision on it in the panel straight away. But first I would like to hear your concerns from your mouth.
There are a few more concerns than I told Florina.
Then it is good that I came here personally.
I suppose so, yes. Firstly, it is about how we, as a core group, should handle it in terms of contributions, payments, donations, and legacies given or transferred to any FIGU study groups or FIGU national groups. Secondly, for such groups, the financial breakdown had to be clarified, such as the cost price and selling price of books and writings produced. This has already been clarified. In our parent center, we keep it in such a way that the cost price of printing and publishing books, together with 50% of the effective pure sales proceeds, goes into a current cash register from which all expenses of any kind are paid, including postage, taxes, correspondence costs, internet, telephone calls, and other activities. The second 50% of the pure sales proceeds flow into a book account, which is used to print new books and typefaces and to produce other materials, but above all, reprints and new prints. Then the question is, what is the situation regarding donations for book printing by national groups and FIGU study groups? How should we and the national groups keep it?
We have discussed these matters in detail in the committee and have come to the following decisions, which will be included and inserted into the statutes and bylaws and therefore should be valid from now on. A, we found that, despite earlier denials on our part, it is quite clear that, as a result of the formation of national groups in various countries, it has now become inevitable that the statutes be handed over to the national groups so that they can be fully inspected. B, and we found that in the statutes Art 33(2) books and writings are handed over for resale at a 40% discount. The figure 30% is to be corrected to 40%, and the whole thing is also to be inserted as Article 20 in the statutes. C, if in the course of time unavoidable changes or innovations should arise in the statutes, then changes are to be inserted in the corresponding articles, while innovations or new articles are to be inserted as of number 21. In the future, things and factors will arise which inevitably require certain articles must be adapted to the new circumstances, as this may be required by state legislation. But this does not mean that the rules and order of the FIGU Association and its subsidiary groups should suffer damage as a result. D, FIGU study groups is not allowed to print and distribute books. Therefore, they are also not allowed to accept contributions, donations, legacies, and bequests. Such are to be directed solely to the parent center. E, with regard to the national groups, the following applies in accordance with the statutes with regard to larger donations over CHF 2500 and in respect of gifts, legacies, and other capital gains. Articles of Association. Art 30, ID, any kind of assets and inheritance or inheritance capital legacies, including cash capital, etc., may only be bequeathed or given directly to the parent center. Simya Se Silver Star Center, Hinter Schmidruti, 1225, 8495 Schmidruti, Switzerland, or bequeathed or given as donations, gifts, legacies, etc., and so on. The determination of the use of such capital gains shall be made exclusively by the core group of 49 of the parent center, Simya Se, Silver Star Center, Hinter Schmidruti, 1225, 8495 Schmidruti, Switzerland. F. Each national group must keep correct accounts of its expenditure and income, which can be officially checked at any time and which must be useful for the state tax adjustment. It is also the duty of each national group, after completion and preparation of the annual audit, to submit it to the FIGU Mother Center, Sim Yase, Silver Star Center, Hinterschmidruti 1225, 8495 Schmidruti, Switzerland. G. Each national group must act in conformity with the legal provisions in the state in which it is established, as they are laid down by the state, as well as the state's tax demand. As far as simple donations to national groups are concerned, it is to be specified that no enrichment may arise from such donations. Therefore, everything must be kept within the following framework. 1. Small donations up to a maximum of CHF 2,500 for missionary purposes of all kinds should be permitted. The amount is to be converted into the currency system of the corresponding state in which the national groups exist. 2. For the printing of books, writings, and materials, a maximum donation should be permitted which does not exceed the maximum cost price of a work or the material to be produced. 3. A national group may not be geared towards enrichment, and consequently all income should also be allowed, resulting from the sale of books, etc., are to be used again for missionary purposes, whereby the system you have mentioned and which is followed by the Mother Center should also be valid for each national group. 4. For the sale of books, writings, and materials, a turnover fund or an account, whereby the content of the cash box or account is to be handled as follows, namely for a cost price of books, writings, and other materials, B. 50% of the sales profit, C. All mission-related expenses, bills, taxes, electricity, water, heating, rent, and all other mission-related activities that are unavoidable are paid from the cash box B, or from this account. 5. A book savings account is to be held for the following purposes. A. 50% of the sales profit is deposited in this account. B. This account is intended for reprints or reprints of books. Therefore, printing costs are paid from this account. 6. If there are surpluses in the sales cash box or sales account, such financial means are to be placed in a corresponding asset savings account for the purpose of A. The acquisition of an own association building as well as land or several buildings, which requires, however, that an officially registered FIGU core group is first formed in the country, which includes all necessary members as stipulated in the statutes. 7. For all contingencies, as these are listed in case of a dissolution or in relation to a leadership of a national group or a subsidiary core group. All articles of the statutes are valid in their entirety, as well as the statutes. These are as far as the facts which I have to mention, and as far as the printing and sale of the books which refer to the spiritual teaching or the teaching of the truth, teaching of the spirit, teaching of the life is concerned, the rules apply only to this. So all other materials are also excluded from this, as well as books and writings which are not considered to be of direct spiritual teaching, such as the novels and the book Globetrotter, which is in the process of being written, etc.
What is the position regarding contact reports, which also do not belong to the spiritual teaching?
That is correct. For these and those works which do not belong to the spiritual teaching, it should be possible to dispose freely according to the will of the core group, and thus contractually secured, it should also be possible to grant permission for translations and for the distribution of these. This, of course, only when you are no longer a member of the core group, and the core group itself must determine and decide on this matter.
That is clear. But we now have foreign language national groups and study groups. So the question is, what should be the policy regarding translations of books on spiritual teaching for internal study in the group concerned?
For this purpose, translations may be permitted for the sole use of the study program. However, such translations may only be copied and used in this way for the respective group members. It does not authorize printing and selling, and this applies both to the study groups and national groups. However, if translated books are to be printed and sold, then this cannot be permitted to the study groups, only the national groups. However, if a study group maintains its own website, then it can be allowed to publish extracts from the translations, but never a comprehensive work. This applies both to excerpts from works of spiritual teaching and also to those that are not related to spiritual teaching. The respective group is responsible for the correct and best possible translation, and also for ensuring that when excerpts of spiritual teaching-related works are published on the Internet, that the original German text is also attached to the excerpts. This is probably self-evident. This is also true for the national groups, although everything has been clarified for these groups, so there is no need to discuss it further. In any case, written permission from you or the core group is always required.
We have to discuss this at our next General Assembly and clarify the whole thing.
This really does need to be discussed, because there are certain innovations that we have decided on, because there are new factors that we must take into account. Unfortunately, these new aspects are important because too many human beings do not know the German language, so everything must be presented to them, at least for the time being, in their mother tongue. Many speak only the infant language English, and little is endeavored to learn the far all-embracing and everything clearly to the expression bringing language German. They are of the erred view that their English language is valueful and sufficient in order to clearly explain and to understand everything, which, however, does not correspond to the truth. Therefore, all studying ones who speak for the spiritual teaching inadequate English must be urgently compelled to learn the German language in a good wise, and indeed written and spoken, because only this language guarantees that the teaching is correctly understood and consequently also knowingly can be correctly implemented in the life.
Naturally, that is clear. Many who use the weak English communication method are unfortunately biased to such an extent by their language that they cannot realize the unvalue of this language. Furthermore, many are also too comfortable and too disinterested in order to learn the valuable German.
That must unfortunately be taken into account. Consequently, translations for the study also in study groups are necessary, but also in order to put it on the Internet, however, always only together with the German original text. And this may also only be done in the home country of the respective study and country group, so that no cross-border actions, etc., may be carried out. This alone can counteract and prevent the evil consequences of globalization. We have also found that the only way to ensure that the German language slowly spreads throughout the world and can lead to success is by doing so.
This is roughly in keeping with the principle, constant dripping wears the stone.
This is how it can be seen and understood. Therefore, it is necessary that these rules are made and implemented. However, it is always important to remember that the core group of the parent center always retains control of everything and therefore gives every necessary permission with appropriate contracts or other written agreements. Self-empowerment, which usually only brings harm instead of benefit, must be strictly prevented before it can also become apparent. That is easy to say with regard to the negatively self-willed Earth humans, I know that, but it must be enforced if there is to be real success.
There is nothing wrong with that.
Then I would like to talk about what Quetzal said and ordered on the 30th of April, because there is something that he told me to say briefly, and that he told me to mention at my next meeting with you. During his visit, he was very upset and angry after the inspection, so he was brief and left too abruptly. He can be excused for being so upset by the damage done to the bushes and trees that he could hardly control himself and had great difficulty in remaining objective. He was particularly affected by all this because the care and maintenance of bushes and trees is one of his great passions, which he cultivates with great dedication in his 3 own bush and tree plantations on Era. So, Quetzal explains that bushes and trees must always be thinned out, but never robbed of their main branches and crowns, nor of their important new shoots, as has unfortunately been done in a loveless, disfiguring, and destructive way. Through this unloving action, explains Quetzal, the bushes and trees have suffered greatly and in some cases have also died. He felt great pain in his thoughts and feelings because of this, which upset, excited, and angered him. He also orders that, as a result of the damage done to the bushes and trees, they must now be left to rest for at least 3 years, and that they should not be pruned during this period. An exception may perhaps be the cherry laurel bushes in certain areas of migratory outgrowths, although Quetzal wants to control and order this himself if pruning should become necessary on a small scale.
I think that is easy to understand. I am happy to rely on Quetzal's assessment and arrangement.
He insists that you take the necessary consequences, so from now on a suitable person with the necessary knowledge from your group will take over the care and maintenance of the bushes and trees. If this is not possible, then an outside expert is to be called in.
We will decide on this at the meeting on the 3rd weekend. An external specialist would probably only be possible from a tree nursery. Such experts are experts in the care of trees and shrubs. However, such experts have high demands in terms of remuneration, so that such an external assignment would be expensive for the FIGU, considering all our shrubs and trees. I have already talked about this with Andreas and also with Silvano, and Silvano also came up with Hartmut because he also tended bushes and trees at his father's place, and obviously in a correct way. But maybe Daniel Z would also still be considered, or he and Hartmut together.
Find out about it. But now, dear friend, I have to go again. It would make Quetzal and I very happy if you could appoint a member in your own row to take care of the bushes and trees and do the work in a proper way. And if any questions arise, call Florina so she can inform me. Goodbye, dear friend. The whole thing with the bushes and trees is also very oath to me.
Goodbye, and thanks for everything. Bye, Ptah, my friend.